Have you ever wondered what your parents would do if the child they threw away suddenly became someone the whole country was talking about? Or better yet, what happens when that child walks back into the house that buried her? On Christmas Eve? My name is Sienna Hart. I'm 27 years old. And I'm the founder of a cybersecurity startup in Boston, the same city my parents kicked me out of 8 years ago, before I jump into the mess that changed everything. Let me ask you something real quick. Hold on before we get into the real stuff. I want to know. What are you doing at this exact moment while hearing my voice? I love seeing your answers down below in the comments. Okay, now. Let's start where my life officially split into 8 years ago when I was 19. I packed a single suitcase on a freezing December night, the kind of night where the cold cuts through your clothes and into your bones. And I told my parents I wasn't going to Harvard like they demanded. I was dropping out before I even began. I wanted to work in tech, build something big, something meaningful. My dad, Michael Hart, a high-ranking consultant who worshipped prestige more than God. He didn't take it well, actually, he exploded. He stood up so fast his dining chair crashed backward against the hardwood. He slammed his palm on the table so loud the Christmas ornaments on the mantel rattled. From this moment forward, he roared, Sienna Hart is dead to us. Dead. Their daughter did because I didn't want the life they scripted for me. My mom Lydia didn't argue. She didn't defend me. Nope, she quietly reached for her wine glass and stared at the tree lights. Like she couldn't hear the screaming my older sister Brielle, who's always acted like the world owed her something. Smirked at me like she'd just won a competition I didn't sign up for. I stood there in the doorway, boots half on, suitcase shaking in my hands, waiting for anyone to say, Sienna, don't go. Sienna, we love you. Sienna, your family. No one did, no one except Grandma Ruth. She caught up to me before I made it to the porch. She slipped a tiny envelope into my coat pocket and pressed $300 bills into my palm with her frail, trembling fingers. Her voice cracked when she whispered, Go make the world regret doubting you, sweetheart. Then she closed the door behind me. That was the last time anyone in that house spoke to me. For 8 long years, I survived by working night shifts, coding on borrowed laptops, sleeping in sketchy studio apartments with broken heaters, and living off instant ramen during Boston winters. Some nights, the loneliness felt like a weight on my chest. Some nights I almost broke. But I didn't. I built my company from the ground up, lines of code, cold coffee, and stubbornness holding me together in them. Yesterday morning, Christmas Eve, I woke up to hundreds of notifications. Forbes had released their 30 under 30 tech list. My name was at the top. The girl who built America's most promising cybersecurity platform from zero. They even called me the comeback kid nobody saw coming. I should have cried. Or screamed. Or laughed. But I didn't, because something else happened, something worse. Something colder. My phone lit up with a text from my mother. The first message in 8 years. Christmas Eve dinner at 6:30. Important discussion. Family only. My stomach dropped. I knew exactly what important discussion meant. I simply replied, I'll be there. Because what they didn't know was, I wasn't coming back as the girl they erased. I was coming back as someone they should have never abandoned, and the moment I walked through that door, I brought a truth they never saw coming. I hadn't seen the Hart family home in 8 years. But the second my Uber turned onto Willowmist Lane, the memories hit me like a brick to the chest. Snow drifted in slow, lazy flakes. The houses were wrapped in warm white lights, each one glowing like a holiday postcard. Toy reindeer, inflatable Santas, wreaths big enough to be shields. It all looked so perfect in that fake, plastic, upper-class suburb way, and then there it was. My childhood house. Or well, the mansion my parents used to remind us how successful they were. They'd gone overboard this year, too. Tons of lights. A 12-foot tree visible through the window. Garland wrapped around the stone pillars like something out of a Hallmark movie. Except nothing about this place had ever felt like a Hallmark movie to me. My hands were sweating inside my gloves. My heart was beating too loud, like it was trying to break out of my chest. I wasn't scared. I was bracing, I walked up the icy steps, heels crunching in the snow, and before I could even knock, the door swung open. My mother stood there, Lydia Hart, in a shimmery gold Christmas dress, pearls tight around her neck, lipstick too bright, smile stretched too wide. She looked exactly how a woman looks when she wants to pretend everything's fine. Sienna. She breathed, like saying my name was a sacred prayer, instead of something she'd ignored for almost a decade. You look lovely, her voice trembled. Not with emotion. With strategy. Hey, Mom, I said. Stepping inside, the house smelled like cinnamon candles, roasted ham, and tension. Always tensioned. Dad was next. Michael Hart, still tall, still broad-shouldered, still wearing his signature navy blazer like he was the CEO of Christmas itself. He approached slowly, giving me the same stiff businessman smile he used to give clients. Sienna. Long time. I nodded. Yeah, 8 years tends to feel that way. He pretended he didn't hear the sting in my words. My sister Brielle popped her head around the corner, holding a glass of wine like it was surgically attached to her hand. Sis? She gasped dramatically. Oh my God, you're actually here. She hugged me quick, light, too rehearsed. She smelled like expensive perfume and desperation. Then, someone grabbed my arm from behind. Grandma Ruth, her eyes lit up like the tree behind her. She pulled me into a hug so tight my ribs creaked. There you are, sweetheart, she whispered. I knew you'd walk in here taller than all of them put together. I exhaled the breath I didn't know I was holding. She was why I came. The only reason I didn't turn around and leave. You hungry? Grandma asked. They burned the rolls again, but the potatoes survived. I laughed. Actually laughed. For a second, it felt like old times, before the betrayal. Before the silence, before the night they declared me dead. We walked into the living room together. Everyone else stared at me like I was a celebrity they weren't sure they liked. Dad cleared his throat. Dinner will be in a few minutes. We thought tonight would be a good time for a family reset. I raised an eyebrow. A reset? After 8 years of no calls, no texts, no birthday wishes. Mom winced. Brielle stared into her wine glass like she was suddenly very fascinated by gravity. Dad inhaled sharply, bracing. We all made mistakes, Sienna. And we want to make things right. There it was, the opening line of the pitch, the reason for the text, the real motive hiding behind the shiny decorations and fake warm smiles. I wasn't stupid. I knew exactly what was coming. Families like mine don't reach out unless they want something. Not after 8 years of radio silence, but I didn't react. Not yet, because the truth was the moment I walked through that door, I realized something. They had no idea who they were dealing with anymore. Dinner was announced, and everyone moved toward the dining room. Grandma squeezed my hand. You okay? She whispered. Yeah, I said. Better than they think. As we took our seats under the dim chandelier light, surrounded by polished silverware and picture-perfect dishes they probably didn't cook themselves, I realized the real game was about to start, and they didn't even know the rules. Dinner at my parents' house has always felt like a staged performance, but that night, that Christmas Eve, it felt like I was watching the final act of a play that should have ended years ago. I took my seat at the far end of the table, same spot as when I was a kid, the quiet corner, the place. They sat me when they didn't want me interrupting their grown-up conversations. Nothing had changed. Except me. The table was covered in white linen, gold-rimmed plates, tall crystal glasses, and perfectly folded napkins shaped like Christmas trees. Everything was excessive, dramatic, curated. Mom's single quotes way of pretending the Hart family was still picture-perfect. Grandma Ruth sat beside me, her hand resting lightly on mine like a silent promise. I'm right here. Sweetheart. Dad cleared his throat like he was prepping for a business pitch, not a family dinner. Let's begin, he said, gesturing toward the server they'd hired because of course they hired someone to plate the food. As the first dishes arrived, roasted turkey, honey-glazed carrots, buttered rolls. Nobody spoke. The silence was thick, awkward, too rehearsed. Finally, Brielle broke it. So, she said, twisting her wine glass, you've been busy, I blinked. That's one way to put it. I mean, she laughed. Your face is literally everywhere. Forbes, Business Insider, TikTok, those podcast clips like, damn, sis. You're trending harder than Santa on Christmas Eve. I smiled politely, but I could feel the tension rising like heat from a stove. Dad leaned forward, elbows on the table. We're proud of what you've accomplished, he said slowly, carefully, as if the words were foreign in his mouth. Truly. Mom nodded, eyes glistening in that dramatic way she uses when she wants sympathy. Proud doesn't even cover it, she said. We've missed you, honey. The lies were so smooth I almost admired the performance, but Grandma Ruth squeezed my hand under the table. She knew, she always knew. Dad exhaled and placed his napkin gently on the table. Sienna, there's something we need to discuss as a family. There it was. The pitch. The reason for the family-only important discussion text. I felt my heartbeat slow, not from fear, but from readiness. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. All right, I said softly, stepping straight into their trap. Let's talk. He nodded like he'd won a small victory. As you know, the economy hasn't been kind to many consulting firms. We've had complications, delays, unexpected losses. Mom dabbed her eyes with her napkin, as if the turkey had personally insulted her. Brielle chimed in. It's been super stressful for all of us, you know? I almost laughed. I had not been part of all of us for 8 years, Dad continued. The company is facing a major crisis. And we need help. There it was. No sugarcoating. They finally said it. They needed money from me, the girl they left in the cold at 19. The daughter they declared dead. The sister they mocked. The granddaughter only Grandma checked on, but I didn't react. Not yet. I took a slow sip of water, letting the silence drag. Their anxiety filled the room like a fog machine. Help with what? I asked, voice calm. Dad swallowed hard. The business needs an emergency infusion to avoid collapse, to keep the Hart legacy alive. Mom added quickly, if we can bridge just a few months, things will turn around. We can fix everything, sweetheart. Fix everything. As if the past 8 years didn't exist. As if money could patch up abandonment. Brielle leaned closer. You're the only one who can save us. There it was. The truth cloaked in desperation, not love. Not regret. Not reconciliation. They didn't want me back. They wanted my bank account. I set my fork down slowly. Intentionally in that moment, I swear I could hear Grandma's heartbeat beside me. She knew I was about to change the game. Before we talk about saving anything, I said softly, I need to understand one thing. The table froze. I leaned back in my chair. Hands in my lap, voice steady as steel. Why now? Dad blinked. Brielle's jaw dropped. Mom's lip trembled. I continued. Why wasn't I worth a call when I was broke? Or lonely? Or sleeping in a basement with a space heater? Why am I family again only after Forbes? No one spoke. Not a word. I smiled gently, but it wasn't warm. It was the smile of a girl who'd climbed her way out of hell. Don't worry, I whispered. I already know the answer. And the truth? They did too. The silence that followed my question was so heavy it felt like it had weight, like someone had draped a blanket over the table. No one moved? No one breathed. Brielle was the first to crack. Oh my God. Sienna, she snapped, tossing her hair like she always did when she felt cornered. Why do you have to make everything dramatic? This is Christmas Eve. Can't you just not be like this? I stared at her, unblinking. Like what? You know, she muttered. Emotional. Grandma Ruth let out the softest, most judgmental I'd ever heard in my life. It was beautiful. Dad finally straightened in his chair, his CEO posture returning like muscle memory. Sienna, he said slowly, we're not here to rehash old wounds. We're here to ask me for money. I finished. His jaw clenched. Mom gasped softly, as if the truth burned her tongue. Sienna, sweetheart, please. It's not like that. We want to reconnect. We want to rebuild this family, together. Grandma squeezed my hand again. Her grip said you don't owe them a single lie. I leaned back in my chair, let my eyes travel across each face, Dad calculating. Mom panicking. Real irritated. Grandma steady. Me done, okay, I said finally. So what exactly happened to this untouchable heart legacy? Dad's mouth thinned into a straight line. He hated admitting weakness, especially in front of an audience. Even his family, but he looked at me and saw something new, something he hadn't prepared for, the daughter who didn't flinch anymore. He exhaled deeply. The firm has been losing clients. A major contract fell through. And the expansion we started 2 years ago. It hasn't paid off. Mom dabbed her eyes dramatically. We tried everything. We prayed. We worked harder. We just need help, honey, Brill added. We're drowning, okay? Like, financially underwater drowning. I nodded once. Then looked Dad straight in the eyes. How bad is it? His jaw flexed. He looked away, very bad then. We're facing lawsuits, missed payments, and possible asset seizures, he muttered, each word squeezing out like it hurt. How much do you need? Mom perked up like a starved dog hearing a treat bag open. Oh, sweetheart, Dad interrupted her, voice low. 2.7 million. The number hit the table like a dropped brick. I clasped my hands together, rested my chin on them, and simply asked, And why do you think I'd help? The room froze again, because now they had to say the part they didn't want to say. Brielle rolled her eyes. Sienna, don't act brand new. You have money, like, real money. Dad nodded quickly. And you love this family, do I? Did I ever? Mom leaned forward, her voice trembling in that way she used when she wanted something expensive. We know we weren't perfect parents, but we were doing our best. And we want to make things right. I tilted my head. Making things right starts with acknowledging what you did. Dad bristled. We're not here to be attacked. I'm not attacking you, I said calmly. I'm asking for honesty. Something we've never done in this house. The server entered quietly to serve the second course, creamy mashed potatoes. Garlic green beans, cranberry glazed ham, and the tension shifted slightly. Settling into the space between us like a cold fog, Dad cleared his throat again. Trying to reset the performance, we thought, he began, voice gentler, that tonight could be the first step toward healing. I smiled, not pleasantly. More like someone who was finally seeing the truth in HD. You want healing, I said softly. But only if it comes with a check. Mom opened her mouth, closed it, then whispered, That's not fair. Yes. It is, Grandma said suddenly. Every head whipped toward her. Her voice was calm, steady, unshakable. Fair is finally telling the truth, she said. And you all haven't told that girl the truth a single day in your lives. Dad looked stunned. Mom looked offended. Brielle looked like she'd seen a ghost, but Grandma wasn't done. This isn't a family reunion, she said. This is a bailout meeting disguised with Christmas lights. Heat shot up Dad's neck. That's enough, Mother. She cut him off with one raised finger. I'm not the one who should be quiet tonight. My chest tightened, not with pain, but with gratitude. For once, somebody was fighting for me. The room wasn't in chaos yet. But it was close, and I knew something they didn't. I didn't come tonight empty-handed. I came with a truth that would flip their entire world upside down, and trust me. Dad stared at Grandma like she'd just flipped the table over. Mom's mascara-smeared eyes blinked fast, trying to process the shift. Brielle's jaw hung open like she'd forgotten how to chew air. Me? I just sat there, calm, collected, almost bored, because they had no idea. The storm that was coming. The server cleared plates quietly, moving like she sensed the emotional radiation leaking from every corner of the dining room. When she slipped away again, the silence roared louder than the fireplace crackling behind us. Dad finally spoke. Voice a low growl. This conversation is between us, he snapped at Grandma. Not you. Grandma didn't even blink. Then maybe you should have been talking to her 8 years ago before you threw her out. Brielle scoffed. Nobody threw her out. Oh, please, Grandma cut in. I was standing right there when your father declared her dead like he was Moses reading commandments. Dad shot to his feet, hands gripping the table edge. That was years ago. We all said things we didn't mean. I raised an eyebrow. Oh? Did you trip and accidentally ignore every birthday? Every message? Every update about my life from Grandma? Did the phone slip out of your hand for 8 years straight, Dad? His nostrils flared, Mom cracked. I saw it happen in real time. Her face twisted, her voice snapped. Do you have any idea how humiliating it was when you dropped out? When people asked about you? When the neighbors whispered, "You embarrassed us." There it was, finally, the truth, not love, not regret, not family embarrassment, double quotes, what a tragedy, I said dryly. Your daughter followed her own dreams. Brielle glared. It wasn't the dream you promised them. And how you didn't even tell us goodbye. I laughed. A sharp, cold laugh. You told me I was dead. What was I supposed to do? Leave a thank you note on the fridge? The room simmered with tension. Dad finally sank back into his chair, defeated for a moment, rubbing his forehead. Fine, he muttered. Fine, we all made mistakes. But right now we're in trouble. Real trouble. And we need your help. I swallowed a bite of mashed potatoes slowly just to irritate him. How much trouble? Dad exhaled through his nose. The firm's debt is significant. How significant? He looked at Mom. Mom looked at Brielle. Brielle looked at her wine-glassed grandma. Looked at me, tell her, she insisted. Dad's voice dropped to a whisper, 14.8 million. The room spun for a second, not because the number shocked me, but because now I understood exactly why they wanted me here. Not for dinner. Not for family. Not for a healing. For a bailout. A $14.8 million Christmas miracle. I set my fork down, neatly, quietly. Wow, I said. That's a big hole. Mom pressed her fingers to her temples. It'll ruin us. Everything. The house. The firm. Dad's retirement. Brielle's condo. Everything will be gone. Brielle's eyes watered. I can't live in an apartment, Sienna. I have allergies. Guy stared at her. Yeah, poverty's full of pollen, I've heard. Grandma choked back a laugh. Dad leaned in, voice softening, sliding into negotiation mode like he was pitching to a boardroom. You're successful now, Sienna. You have resources. We're not asking for charity, we're offering you equity. A real seat at the table. Voting power, partnership. My smile sharpened. So now I'm family and a business partner. Exactly, Mom rushed in. It's a win for everyone. I shook my head slowly. You don't want me. You want what I have. Dad's jaw twitched. We're asking for help. Isn't that what families do? My eyes locked directly onto his bunny, because when I needed help sleeping in basements, eating dollar store soup, you told everyone I was dead. He had no comeback. None. Grandma touched my arm gently. You don't owe them the past, she whispered, but you do owe yourself the truth. I exhaled. This was the moment. The line between who I used to be and who I'd become. I looked at Dad. Is that everything? Are you being fully honest with me?
He hesitated too long. Grandma's eyebrows lifted knowingly.
She could smell a lie before it was fully cooked. What aren't you telling her? Grandma demanded. Dad's face went pale like milk pail. And in that second, I knew something was coming, something they'd been hiding. Something bigger than debt. Something desperate, messy, and stupid. Sienna? Dad began, voice shaking just a little, but before he could finish, the doorbell rang. Everyone froze, because nobody invites guests to a family-only important discussion. On Christmas Eve, and I swear the air got colder. The doorbell didn't just ring. It echoed loud, sharp, wrong, like a warning shot. Every head in the dining room snapped toward the foyer. Mom's hand flew to her chest. Brielle froze mid-breath. Dad's face drained of color like someone pulled the plug on him. Even Grandma Ruth leaned forward. Brows knitting. Dad shot up from his chair. Nobody answer that, he barked, which, of course, meant someone should absolutely answer it. I stood. Sienna. Sit down, Dad snapped. I didn't. I walked toward the foyer one slow, steady step at a time, heels tapping against the hardwood. Dad hurried after me, yelling, "Sienna, leave it." I didn't even look back. "Why? Who is it?" He didn't answer. Couldn't answer, because he already knew, and the panic in his voice told me everything. I needed to know. This wasn't a neighbor. This wasn't Carollers. This wasn't family, this was trouble. I reached the door first. Dad lunged to grab my arm, but he was too slow. I opened it. Cold winter air blasted into the house. Along with two men in black coats and snow-covered boots, one held a thick folder. The other wore an expression so serious it made the Christmas lights behind him look sarcastic. "Evening," the man with the folder said. "Are you the Hart family?" Dad shoved himself in front of me like a malfunctioning shield. I am," he stuttered. "This is a private gathering. You can't just—" "We can," the man interrupted calmly. "And we have to." Mom appeared behind us, pale as the snow outside. "Oh God," she whispered. "Not tonight. Not Christmas Eve, please." The man opened the folder with slow, deliberate intent. "I'm afraid this can't wait. Mrs. Hart."
He handed Dad a packet of papers. I recognized the layout instantly. Legal documents.
Official seals, asset listings. Dad's hands shook as he flipped through. "No," he muttered. "You can't be serious. This has to be a mistake." The man shook his head. "Mr. Hart, you've ignored 6 notices and 2 final warnings. Effective immediately, the firm's assets are being seized. And this residence," he glanced around the decorated foyer, "is included in the lien." Mom staggered back, grabbing the wall for balance. Brielle screamed, "No, no, no, this is our home. You can't just take it." The agent didn't flinch. "You have 72 hours to vacate. We're required to notify you tonight because enforcement begins Monday. Christmas Eve, 2 days before everything they worshipped collapsed." Dad's voice cracked. "Please, we just need more time." The man sighed sympathetically. "I'm sorry, Mr. Hart, but the debt is too large and the default period expired." This was inevitable. The other agent glanced at me. "And you are—" I smiled faintly. "Just visiting." Dad whipped toward me, eyes blazing. "Sienna, don't you dare pretend you're not part of this family." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh, now I'm part of the family." Mom sobbed harder. Brielle covered her face. The agent stepped back toward the snow. "Your signature acknowledgement is on the last page," one added.
"Merry Christmas."
And then the door closed behind them. Silence, not soft silence, dead silence. Dad turned to me. "This is your fault." I laughed. A cold, hollow laugh. "Really?" "The company crashed because I refused to play Barbie CEO at 19. You could have helped," he roared. "You could have saved us." "There was nothing to save," I shot back. "You burned the house down and now you're screaming at the smoke." Mom wiped her face with shaking hands. "We're losing everything. Don't you understand that?" "I do," I said quietly. "That's why I asked you earlier if you were being honest." Dad flinched, because he hadn't been, and we both knew it. I walked slowly back toward the dining room. My heart was calm, almost peaceful. Grandma watched me carefully, eyes soft but sharp. Like she knew I was carrying a truth they weren't ready for. Dad followed me. "Desperate now. We still have options," he insisted. "We can fix this if you just—" I turned around, and for the first time all night, I let the steel in my voice show. "I didn't come here to save you," I said. "I came here to tell you something you should have known months ago." Mom stared at me, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "What? What do you mean?" I stepped closer, close enough to see the panic in their eyes. Close enough to watch the last bit of hope slide off their faces. "Remember earlier," I said softly, "when you asked why I came tonight?" Dad swallowed. Yes." I smiled, a slow, devastating smile. "Because you aren't the only ones with a surprise." Their faces fell because they could feel it coming. Guy stood at the head of the dining room table, the same room where my father had once declared me dead. The same room where they pretended to love me for show. The same room where lies were served hotter than the mashed potatoes. And this time, I wasn't shaking. They were. Mom looked like she was seconds from passing out again. Dad was white-knuckling the back of his chair. Brielle was clutching her wine glass like it was emotional life support. Grandma Ruth sat quietly at the end, hands folded in her lap, watching me with that soft, proud smile she saved for moments she knew would change everything. I took a breath. Do you remember? I said slowly. When Grandma told you the business was in trouble. Months ago? Dad blinked, confused. How do you know about that conversation? She didn't tell you. Oh, she didn't have to, I said. Because I already knew. Before she knew. Before you even admitted it to yourselves. Mom frowned. What are you talking about? I looked each of them dead in the eye. I knew because your bank statements weren't in your name anymore. Dad froze. Brielle blinked. Wait, what? I stepped closer, voice low, controlled. You wanted to know why I came home tonight? Why I said yes to your sudden Christmas Eve invitation. Why I walked into the same house that erased me. They waited, Dad whispered. Sienna. What did you do? I smiled faintly. Exactly what you taught me. Business first. The room tilted. The fireplace popped. The Christmas tree lights flickered like they could sense the shift. I pulled a slim black folder from my purse. Dad's face twisted. No, Sienna, don't. I laid it gently on the table. This, I said, tapping the cover, is the documentation. For every Hart family debt that's been mysteriously reassigned over the last 9 months. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Brielle's wine glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the hardwood. Dad's voice cracked. You bought our debt?
I nodded once, calm, cold, certain. Well,
someone had to own it, I said. Might as well be the daughter you said was dead. Mom stumbled back like I'd slapped her. Why would you do that? She cried. Why would you set us up like this? Grandma answered before I could. Because you never apologized, she said softly. Not once. I lifted my chin. I didn't buy it to hurt you. I bought it so the banks wouldn't take the house before you even saw your own mess. So I could walk in here tonight and hand you the truth myself. Dad swallowed hard. What? What truth? I took the final document out of the folder and slid it across the table. A cashier's check. A release agreement. A legally binding split between me and the entire Hart legacy. You have a choice, I said softly. Sign this and I'll pay off the remaining debt. Everything. You'll keep your cars. Your retirement. Your home's well. The smaller ones you'll downgrade to. Mom's breath hitched. But why? Why help us at all? Because Grandma asked me to, I said. And because I don't want your legacy. I don't want your company. I don't want your name. I built my own. Dad stared at the paper like it was a live bomb. What happens if we refuse?
He whispered. I shrugged. Then the foreclosure process moves forward.
I paused. And you lose everything. Brielle burst out crying. Mom collapsed into a chair. Dad looked at me, not with anger. Not even with fear, but with something I had never seen on his face before. Respect. Real. Raw respect. Slowly. With trembling hands. He signed. Mom signed. Brielle signed. It was over, just like that. Grandma squeezed my hand. You did right, she whispered. You did right by yourself. I exhaled a breath I'd been holding for 8 years, when I stepped outside into the snowfall. The world felt quiet, clean, new. Grandma walked out beside me, linking her arm with mine. Ready to go home, sweetheart? She asked. I nodded. Yeah, I said. For the first time. I actually am. We walked through the snow toward the car, 2 women who survived the same house. The same people, the same history, and left it behind forever if this story pulled at your chest. If you've ever had to rebuild yourself when the people closest to you didn't believe you could, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Silent Revenge Lab. We've got more stories that hit just as hard.